You get your microphone.
Welcome, everybody. We do have enough for a quorum. Have a quorum. Like a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Have a motion to approve the agenda. Have a second.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Representative Hahn. All in favor? Aye.
Mayor,
Oh,
the agenda.
Okay. Dang, Jay, here I was on the road, right? Is there any amendments or adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, sir. If we could, I'd like to add a non-agenda item at the end. It's an item related to the Twin Oaks plan development. I don't know if the board will want to take any action tonight or not, but I think it's something that you need to be aware of. And second, I'd ask for resolution 2108 be deferred.
Okay. 2108 will be deferred, and I will put your new agenda item at the end after new hires.
Thank you.
All right. Any other adjustments? All right. With the adjustments, I would ask for approval of the agenda. All in favor? All right. You have the minutes. You get a chance to look over them, and I'll ask for approval on them. If there's any corrections?
I would like to point out that I noticed something after I had already put these out, that on the fourth page, under resolution 2105, there's a typo. It says Attorney Minor stated he had reviewed the link subdivision that needs to be corrected to Chickasaw Gardens Phase 3.
Okay. All right. Any other? Get a motion to approve, please.
make a motion to approve the minutes as requested.
Have a motion from Mr. Case. Have a second?
Second.
Have a second, Vice Kent, second. All in favor? Okay. All right, at this point in our meeting, is anyone have any citizen wish to make a comment? For citizens' comment, anybody's got anything to talk about?
Mr. Mayor, can I try to solve y'all's speed?
Boy, if you can, you well, you're a man of God, you make him pray for you. We've had no luck with it. Okay, while he's doing that,
So would it be better if we just cut our mic on to speak?
Cut it on off.
Cut it off, and then if you want to speak, then cut it off.
okay. Having no other citizens wish to make comments, we'll move on. Would like to thank all the city employees for your work during this last
emergency, and we went to a number of businesses. Let's see. Ended up issuing 4 citations for violations. Tried to keep everybody straight. That's pretty much it. That's all I got, unless you have any questions.
Yes, excuse me. When I came in, I saw T-shirts. Is that from your department?
No, sir. It's not our fault.
I got a question for you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
What about the 10 theft and vandalism? What was that? Or can you talk about it? On page 2.
Which one were you asking about?
Theft, vandalism. Look like it's 10, 2 and 8.
I don't have that narrative in front of me, so.
Oh, okay.
I can find out for you.
That's fine. I was just curious.
Yes, sir? Did you have a question?
Yeah, are all your officers back on duty and working, all of them?
Well, except for the one that was involved in the shooting, he's still off.
Okay, that's the one I was asking about. All right. Thank you.
Okay? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chief.
You're right.
Any other department heads have any comments they wish to make? All right, we'll move on from that
I'd like
then.
to ask Fire Chief to come in, please.
Fire Chief Walker. Have,
Yes, sir.
have a question for you, sir.
This afternoon, I got a phone call from a citizen who said that they went to go get their COVID shot, their second one. They went to the health department, and the health department says, we don't have Pfizer's COVID shot. They have Moderna. Well, he got Pfizer first, and they said, we can't give you Moderna if you've had Pfizer.
Correct.
Well, what's going on?
Where did he take his first shot at?
What do you mean?
Did
At the
he-
health department?
Out here?
At the health department
In Somerville?
on Somerville.
That's interesting.
Big time. That's why I wrote it down as soon as they called me. I was like, I'm gonna have to ask you.
If you give me his name, I'll find out what's going on.
You know Fred
They-
Sesty?
Because they were
Who?
basically using Moderna pretty much exclusively
Mine.
out here.
The shot I received was done.
So
Would you give it to him privately so that he
I
can
should
talk?
call. I'll do that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions for any department head? All right, we'll move on then. Town manager's report, Mr. J.
Yes, I have one item. I think everyone knows this, but it bears repeating. The town of Oakland, the Oakland water system is not part of the MLG&W water system. The town water customers are not under a boil water order. We're very fortunate we've not encountered some of the problems that our neighbors have. Related to that, it's our policy and practice of the town, we do not cut off water for non-payment during severe weather conditions. But I'd want to emphasize those bills are still due and payable and will incur interest. But we will not be cutting water off when temperatures are below freezing. So I wanted to just reiterate those 2 points.
All right, moving on, report from members of the board, discussion items, work session meetings. Mr. Case.
Yeah, I was just curious on this workshop that we've been having. Is it necessary we have them every month, and can we get it down to what just town business has to have instead of going through all this discussion stuff?
Well, there was, the discussion, I believe back in December, was that we'd have work sessions for the first 6 months of the year because of the amount of activities that are going on.
But shouldn't that be just town business?
think what the problem is here is a circumvention. We're circumventing the special call meeting by saying we're having a workshop. When if you look up the definition of workshop, I got a screenshot of it, but it's specific. Most of the time when municipalities or government agencies have workshops, they're budget workshops or workshop on the park. And we're more or less having a meeting with a bunch of agenda items on it and calling it a workshop. I mean, a workshop is to work on something, not everything, not a meeting. I mean, there's no problem, you just call a special call meeting. The mayor can call one, or 3 members of the board can call one. And you can put anything you want to on it. But I think these workshops, I think that they're supposed to be more or less, they're informal and specific. And there's been nothing specific about these workshops. If you wanna have one, and a workshop, let's have a workshop. Let's have a workshop on whatever we're gonna have it on. But I think if we're gonna have a meeting, then we call a meeting. And that's all I'm saying. You can have legal look into it, but I think if you get an opinion from MTAS, they're not gonna tell you that you can have 15 agenda items on a workshop and be effective on having a workshop.
The intent, I think when we started, the purpose of the workshops was to have in-depth discussions on big items that are coming before the board.
That's what I'm saying.
Such as the park.
That's what I'm saying.
For March, for example, we would have ideally the IT study for discussion. Items that are not necessarily ready for a decision, but are information for the board. That has been my experience with work sessions.
But if you've been on a work section and you discussing stuff, there's no way you can vote on it. That needs to be in a special call meeting, just like Vice Mayor Sutton is saying. That needs to be a special meeting or brought up in a regular meeting, not in a workshop.
I've not put anything from my office on an agenda that's requested a vote.
No, it was strictly town business though. The building, the contracts, the budget, or whatever we do, but just forced discussion items, I think that ought to be caught up in a, excuse me, a special call meeting or brought up in a regular board meeting, not on no workshop. I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it.
Mayor.
Mr. Hahn, I'm sorry.
No problem, Mr. Mayor.
I told you I was going to get the night.
You know, and I tend to agree. The work sessions need to be fixed and pointed. Okay, if it's going to be on the park, let's talk about the park, and that's that. We don't need to go down 2 monthly meetings, what they seem to be turned into. We have to operate as a board. That's in our charter. We operate as a board, and these work discussions, these workshops, should be pointed for specific on 1-2 agenda items. The other stuff can go in monthly meeting, if I'm not mistaken. That's all.
All right, well, what I'm hearing from the board is if we're gonna have a workshop, it needs to be specific for one item and not allow any other discussion on anything else. Is that what you're telling me you would like to have?
I like to see it for strictly town business to what pertains that we need to discuss before the next meeting.
Okay.
Well, now, sir, if I may, I don't think some of the items we'd be talking about are necessarily for the next meeting.
Well,
It
some of
may
them-
be in terms of long-term planning.
Some of them would be, some of them wouldn't. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I think,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
and, you know, I would hope maybe if you want to establish a limit, 3 or 4 items. Again, there's a lot of activity pending in this community.
Well, if it's
And we
important,
need to, I think you as a body need to be aware of that. But, you know, it's whatever you want.
yeah, if it's important for what the town business is doing, I don't have any objection to it. But if it's discussion items just for other stuff, we need to do that in a special meeting or this meeting.
Okay, Mr. Hahn?
I can agree to that. You know, and if we're talking about the park and something pertains to that, you know, or if we have two separate subjects and something pertains to that. But if we go from the park to something totally off subject, it's hard for the group to operate as a board and focus on one thing with, you know, with multiple things going. That's just my opinion, you know.
Okay. Any other comments?
That's all I have.
We will try to limit our work session agenda and meet the wishes of the board. All right, next item, courtroom, Mr. Hahn.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, this looks amazing. It's very nice. I think it represents what an alderman session or a chamber should look like. These guys did great work. I stopped in a couple of times when they were doing the construction. Very polite guys. They were local, correct?
Yes.
That's awesome. I love doing that with local. You know, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I think some of the problems that, you know, I've noticed from being a citizen now serving on the board, some of the problems with Oakland is we never finish. We start things, but we never follow through and finish. And that's what I want to talk about with this courtroom. This building's older, obviously. Needs, in my opinion, some to be updated. We've got this nice, you know, desk here for all the council, you know, and we still have two different kinds of paneling, and stains on the ceiling, busted ceiling fans. I'm requesting that, can we finish the courtroom? Don't just leave it a nice desk surrounded by this.
Two different color interior doors, two different colors of trims and moldings.
Yes, sir. Look
Yeah,
above your head.
I totally agree. I think that it all ought to look alike in here.
Well, and look up.
Ain't gonna be one way to do that, and that's put some paint on it.
Well, I'm requesting that we can finish this. I think some of our guys can take down some, you know, these two ceiling fans, maybe even, I'm scared to know what's under those lights, but, you know, we can make this look nicer. And I think, you know, relatively inexpensively.
We're working on it.
Yes, sir.
And we'll continue to work on it. Give us a little time. We all have our concerns on the improvements.
Do all of you agree, and this is a question, you know,
I agree.
Alderman Hunt and I have talked about one idea. One idea is putting a chair rail up, and above the chair rail, painting the existing paneling to a consistent color.
Leaving this wall
Leaving this wall,
so it's official looking chamber. Or we can paint it. I just want to change it. It's pretty bad.
Can
Well, I don't think you ought to put a chair rail and leave the top half, because you still got different color paneling on the bottom of it, and I don't know why the door, I'm guessing this one is dark brown on the inside to match that one. That's a guess. Is the other door back there light brown to match the other one in the backside?
Yeah, I can elaborate on that. There used to be a wall here.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
another office. So this wall was taken out. That's the reason for the two different color panels.
Can they not stain this paneling the same color of
I
this?
don't think they can stain it. It don't have that type of finish. They'd have to sand it first. I think you can paint it.
Well, and if I may, Mr. Sutton, that's what I'm proposing, paint it. The chair rail would add a little bit of fancy to it, but I mean, if we can just paint it, paint the trim, dress it up, I think it'd look a lot more official. This is where the town business happens. This is where people come and talk to us, BZA board meets here, Park and Rec board meets here. This is our chamber, this is our meeting, and then eventually we're gonna have court in here. I think we can dress it up a little bit better, and until we can find better quarters for this, I think it would benefit.
Okay. What is the wishes of the council? What do you want us, paint the doors, I got that.
And the walls.
You want the walls painted,
Yeah.
all right?
And if you wanna leave this back wall like that, it suits me fine.
Well, if you wanna tell us what color you want the wall.
That's out of my league.
and I agree with Alderman Sutton. I would suggest an off-white. I don't think we wanna go with a stark white, but
All right, Mr. Hunt?
not orange.
I have a suggestion. Orange is not, no, sir, I understand. We've got some ladies that work here. I'm not a color, it's gonna be orange if I pick. So maybe ask one of the girls if they wanna look at it. I'm available to bring paint samples. The main thing is, you know, do we need to take some estimates to get this painted, or is this something we can handle in-house?
Mr. J, would you mind looking into this? And I think we want, off-white seems to be a
Yeah.
acceptable color to everybody. Would you see about an off-white? And, Ms. Vaughn, would you help him? Because he needs help with colors just like the rest of us. So, if that's all right with the board, we'll do that. We'll get the doors painted and we'll continue to do the work to get it in better shape.
We already started to get the light fixtures where they'll match. And if I may, Mayor, real quick.
Yes, sir.
I think all of you know, but we have 9 new chairs ordered. They were to have been delivered last week. We don't know where they are, but hopefully by your next meeting, we'll have 9 new chairs.
Do we have LED lights up here?
I hadn't looked at that.
It would make it a lot lighter in here since we don't have the light anymore.
Okay.
Mr. Hine?
Just one request, Mr. Johnson. We can remove our propellers.
Yes.
That's bothersome.
If I may follow up Mr. Alderman Cates' comment, we did not run electrical in the podium because that would have been extra cost.
I understand that.
Complicated. It could be done, but that's why there's not electrical outlets within the podium itself.
But if you put LED lights, it'd be a lot brighter.
Yes, yes.
I mean, I'm just suggesting that.
Okay. Any other suggestions or comments? Okay. All right. Then we will move on. Next one is grant writer, Mr. Cates.
Yes, sir. I know Vice Mayor Sutton and Alderman Duncan was here with myself about a year or so ago. We had voted unanimously to get, I think it was a girl from Somerville to write grants. You remember who it was or somebody?
A firm out of Nashville, I believe.
I don't, it was approved. I don't know who's got it. But it's been over a year and nobody has contacted them or they hadn't contacted us. And we voted to let us do that on a percentage and they said they would. So I was questioning why aren't we already using that?
All I can say, sir, is probably within the first 2 or 3 weeks that I was here, an introductory phone call was arranged. I talked to the lady in Nashville very briefly, and there's been no further communication either way since then. In my brief conversation, in my brief review of their website, a great deal of the work they do is CDBG work. Now, I'm sure they do other grants, but they've not reached out to us on any type of EDA or Farmers Home Administration or any of the state transportation grants. Since I've been here, there's been one phone call and that's it.
Is there any way we can reach out again to someone and see if they would take it on a percentage? I just feel like we're losing grants by somebody not looking into it. I know you've been looking into some, but overall, as a town, grants, we're gonna need some grants on that park, and we're just sitting here with our hands tied.
Well, one of the things we've done on our proposed professional services agreement with DT Studios on the park design, grant application work will be a part of their services.
Okay.
We've taken care of that. You know, to my knowledge, we're not paying any fee to these people in Nashville. I'm
No.
sure we could contact somebody else. One thing I would point out, not all grants, but many grants are need-based. And while we feel like we have needs, our average per capita income, our average family income is above the state level. So there's going to be some grants that we will not qualify for, or we will only qualify for a percentage of what the grant might be compared to some other cities. But to your basic question, no. Right now, there's no one outside town government actively soliciting grants on our behalf.
Well, it was like a lot of other things. Our former mayor said he reached out to them and we never got an answer back, so.
Well, we are working on it, Mr. Cates. I promise you we are, and give us a few more weeks and we'll try to.
I mean, we don't get but just some, that's better than nothing.
That's all new money, as long as it serves the purpose for us.
Right.
Mr. Hahn?
I don't know if you guys are aware, but, our interim director is a certified grant writer. Ms. Seagraves.
I'm not a certified grant writer, I've been in grant writing workshops.
Oh, well,
I can get into grants.
pretty close.
Well, she's welcome, it's part of her job to introduce anything, I mean,
Maybe she can assist.
Watch grants.
Okay, any other comments?
I'm through.
Okay, you good? All right. Under old business, moving on. Hear a motion to hear resolution 2101.
Make a motion here.
Have a second?
Second.
Jay?
This is one of those items that we've talked about for quite a while. This would authorize an agreement with King Engineering to prepare plans and specs for the removal of that bridge. The estimated not to exceed cost for that contract would be $16,500. Those services include the preparation of the bid specifications for the removal. It includes the application to the state of Tennessee for an ARAC permit. It includes the application to the Army Corps of Engineers for a 404 permit, and to obtain temporary access easements from the school system to get into the bridge.
Was this bidded out?
No, sir.
Sir?
No, sir. It's a professional services agreement, and we have a master agreement with King Engineering.
We'll get the total cost for the removal in this study.
At the end of the study, yes, sir. Can I point out something that I just think is ironic?
Yes, sir.
This is not much less than the fee proposed to rehab the bridge.
To what?
To rehab, the proposal that was presented by King Engineering last fall, or last year, to rehab the bridge was, I think, $18,000. So it's gonna cost us almost as much to design, to remove it, as it cost us to,
Resurface?
no, restore it. But that contract was not authorized. That was a proposal.
So I guess that's a decision we need to make, either destroy it or fix it, right?
But now, I would point out again, I'm sorry, but some of these issues will be whichever way we go if we disturb the creek bank or the creek bed. That's what's complicating this.
But go ahead.
Mr. Hahn?
This bridge, at Cypress Creek has been there and needed repair for quite a while. It's dangerous for citizens. I don't know what's happened in the past. I'd like to see it gone.
Cause it's got something to do with insurance too, right?
Yes, our insurance is no longer covered.
So if somebody gets hurt, town's liable.
Can we ask Mr. Bonner?
Well, I've already given the town an opinion on it, that it's a liability problem. It could easily be defined as an attractive nuisance, which is a legal cause of action, so. It either needs to be repaired or removed.
Mr. Sutton?
when are we required to have a professional services contract with an engineer on a project?
If it exceeds $50,000.
You think taking that bridge out is gonna cost us over $50,000 or more?
Yes, sir, I do.
That's,
That's interesting.
we've already got a study guy for $18,000 that we've paid to have the bridge reconstructed. The surface to go back on it is, we've got a price on that, for how much?
It was over 200,000, I believe.
No, that was a bunch of bull crap.
Oh.
There was a proposal to put the surface back exactly like it was on there, and it wasn't that expensive. About $50,000. So we're gonna pay more to have one taken out, and we already put one in. Just, this bridge thing, it's gone on way too long. But why Why do we think it's gonna cost over $50,000 to have the bridge taken out?
We cannot touch the creek. What has been explained to me, and we can have engineers or somebody come in, we are going to have to do this working from either side of the creek with large cranes to pick it up. Now, whether we pick it up in one piece, pick it up in two pieces, but we cannot disturb the creek bed, and that's the concern.
If I may, with Mr.
Uh-huh.
Sutton, Mr. Sutton, you're right, this thing has gone on for so long. And if we did resurface it with the material that was there that already failed,
Failed or just didn't last for your whole life? I mean,
The reason,
Did it-
either way, I mean.
well, it don't fail. Some things don't last forever. I
The
don't mean
reason
it
it
fails. It's
failed
like a
is-
dog. You get a dog, it ain't gonna live forever.
the reason it failed is they didn't leave a crack in it for the water to go through.
Wonder how many times they
put
sprayed it with
solid.
Thompson water seal throughout those years. Wonder how many times they did any maintenance on it.
Good question.
Would it be in the minutes who made the proposal that we could do it for 50,000? I've not, the one I saw was 200,000 or
And then
plus or
there was
minus.
another one for 77,000. There's been so many proposals on that bridge.
One of them was
And let me tell you what the common denominator is to that bridge, King Engineering. That's the common denominator to every problem we've had on it, I can tell you that. I'm about ready to look at a different engineer, is what I'm about ready to do. Every bit of advice we've had has been from him. I don't know.
But if they'd have put
done
that bridge,
talking
those
about it.
boards in with a crack in it so the water wouldn't have stood on that wood, it would have lasted twice as long.
Then you've got your ADA problems, Mr. Frank. We've been over that too. Can't leave cracks in it because of ADA. It's gotta be able to have a wheelchair and stuff go across it. So, you know, it's,
Meanwhile, our town's unprotected there.
All right, gentlemen, we need to reach some kind of decision here. We beat it to death pretty good, and I think from what I'm hearing from you, you've been beating it to death for several years. So,
If the board wants, we could solicit a proposal from another engineering firm. I don't know if it's gonna be any different, but we could,
how do you know if you need an engineer if you hadn't got a price on taking the bridge out yet? I don't understand how you can determine whether you need an engineer until you've got a quote on the bridge. If you have to exceed $50,000, get a quote on the bridge first, and then tell me it's gonna be $60,000 and we gotta have an engineer.
what am I quoting? What am I quoting?
Getting the bridge taken out.
Gentlemen, I think if we don't go through the process and get the proper permits from the state, that is a huge exposure for this town. Now, do we need an engineer to do that? I don't know, or does it cost 18,000, I don't know, but I don't think it's a simple matter of just taking a crane and removing that bridge. But now, I can't defend $18,000, sir, I'm not sitting here prepared to do that.
I'm defending, we don't even know if we need to spend the $18,000. When I'm sitting up here, I'm thinking about this would come out of my bank account. I'm looking after the taxpayers. And if we don't need an engineer until we break the $50,000 threshold, show me a quote where it's gonna cost $50,000 or more. And then I can think about doing that. But if I can't hire an engineer for $18,000, not even knowing if we need one, I can't do it. Maybe these guys can, but I can't.
Why can't the state do that without our engineer getting involved?
State do what, I'm sorry?
Can the state not look at that and tell us without going through engineer? They have state inspectors.
I don't think the state would do that because it's not a state asset.
It's involving the state over that creek.
Okay.
I'm not sure we want to ask the state to come in and look at that. That may not be the best thing that we can do.
Okay.
Mr. Dunn,
We don't wanna violate the state. You know,
Correct.
so ask the state what we can do. To remove it. We know we're gonna need 2 cranes to move it,
Not necessarily.
possibly. And for nothing to go into the water, you could lay something down, you can, to catch everything. Get the requirements from them first.
I hate to do this, can I make a motion to table this till we can get more information
I'll
on
make
it?
a motion, we contact some crane companies like Barnhart and ask them how much it cost us for them to take that bridge out of here.
All right, wait just a minute. Mr. Cates, you had the first motion. Do you wish to make that or withdraw?
I'll withdraw it till there's more discussion.
Okay. Mr. Sutton, you got a motion?
Yeah, I just don't know why we can't contact a crane company like Barnhart and say, how much is it gonna cost us to get this bridge out of there? I mean, I know they've got a crane that'll pick that bridge up.
I do too.
I've seen them set some bridges down bigger than that with them cranes. And find out how much it's gonna cost.
All right, can I get a motion to table till we get some further answers to the questions the board has presented tonight?
I make a motion to table it till we can get some answers.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on.
But I would go along with Ken's suggestion of getting somebody to look at it before we go any further.
We got, I think Jay and I got the message. All right, moving on, resolution 2106. Can I get a motion to hear resolution 2106?
Second.
All in favor? All right. Mr. J,
This resolution is to authorize the staff to solicit qualification statements from architects for the Main Street building and other projects of the city. Any recommendation would come back to this board. Any decision would be by the Board of Aldermen. This is simply an authorization to solicit qualification statements and interview potential architects.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2106.
Hold up just a minute. The date needs to be changed on the bottom of this. It's got, February the 18th. This is the 22nd.
All of those will be changed. This is,
Okay, I just
Be
wanted to,
prepared before the meeting.
I just wanted to bring it to attention.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed?
I have the motion. Who made the second, please?
All right. Could I have a motion to hear resolution 2107, please?
Motion here.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. J.
This resolution was also deferred from an earlier meeting, I believe, but what this resolution would do would authorize an agreement with King Engineering to conduct an asbestos study of our Main Street property buildings at a cost not to exceed $2,000.
Is this for that asbestos and stuff that's in it?
Yes, sir.
I was under the impression about a year ago that that was inspected for that. Why didn't they find it then? I specifically asked that question to Mr. Owens in a meeting. He said he inspected. I asked him to scrape the paint to make sure it wasn't any lead paint in behind next to the wall. And my understanding was he inspected it. And supposedly our former mayor got a letter, Mr. Minor might be aware of this, that it was nothing wrong with that building. It was 100% ready to move in. And I believe you quoted, I'm not sure about the time, but we had like 60 or 90 days to go over that before it was final. Is that true?
That was a part of the purchase and sale agreement. There was a 90-day due diligence period that the town had to conduct any inspections that it wanted to conduct. But at the conclusion of that 90 days, then the terms of the contract go hard and the town would be obligated to purchase.
Did you get a copy of that letter?
That's been a while ago. I'm sure, I can't remember the exact letter you're referring to, but I assume that I did.
they gave it to our former mayor, said that building was 100% good, was ready to move
That was
in.
the seller that provided that?
The ever who sold it, to ever who was on that church. And this was over a year ago, so why are we gonna have to pay to get it inspected again if it was already inspected? The asbestos is there, they said it wasn't there, so now here we are over a year later going through the same thing again.
Well, if I may,
Yes, sir.
we've got the opposite issue now in that the gentleman who looked at the roofs without a contract said he had it tested and it tested positive for asbestos. So we're sitting here with unofficial conflicting information. Now, the board does not have to authorize this study. We could wait till we hire an architect. But whether we remodel or whether we tear it down, we have to know if there's asbestos in that building.
I thought we already did. I thought the guy had it tested.
He says it is, but now if we.
Did we say, hey, can you show us that test?
I have not yet, no, sir. We don't have a contract with that firm either.
But I mean, we could ask though.
We could ask.
We could ask.
We could ask, we need to find the letter from the church that says there's not.
Well, I can tell you now, I mean, Miss Ray's sitting out there, it's meetings and it's recorded in public, it's asbestos in it now. I can tell you that.
But why wasn't it in there a year ago when they would've found it?
I don't know why a roofer was over there checking for asbestos is what I can't figure out.
Let me ask,
Who asked him to check for it?
I got two,
That's what I'm wondering. I've had roof done. I ain't never had one. Man, I got your stuff tested for asbestos.
A representative of the town asked for it. I mean, that's pretty well known.
I got three
Now,
questions.
the board didn't. The board didn't, but the town, a representative of the town asked for that roof inspection. I can only say what I know.
All right, Mr. King.
All right, I got three questions. Number one, was it inspected by Walter and them, Mr. Owens, a year ago?
I do not know.
Number,
I wasn't here a year ago.
number two, Vice Mayor Sutton, would you have voted to buy that building if it hadn't been inspected?
No.
Alderman Duncan, would you have voted to buy that building if it hadn't been inspected? So we're sitting here, we done bought something that said it was inspected and it wasn't. Because I voted no to start with. So I'd like to find out if it was inspected, what was inspected, who signed off on it, and if we were just given some false information on it. Because we were told it was inspected. I specifically asked that question myself. It's in the minutes. I went back and listened to them.
If we're gonna get anything done on this building, we might as well start from scratch. I wasn't at the workshop. I apologize. I was out of town on business. But here's what I need to decide, what I need to know. At the workshop, what was the consensus of the board to do with this property downtown? That's what I need to know.
I think it would be fair to say the consensus was to remodel what we could and demolish about 40% of the bank building.
Which is where that wood building was going on.
Right.
Yes, yes.
That wasn't my consensus.
No, I didn't say it, full consensus,
Okay.
but it was, that,
Consensus of the board.
if you're familiar with the building, if we built a new wall just past where the safe and the night depository is located and demolished everything east of that,
I understand.
it would take out what is at least the most visible mold and mildew and the other issues with the building. It would take all of it, but it would take probably most of it. And that would still leave us, it'd leave us about 8,000 square feet in that building that could then be remodeled. And it also saves the upstairs, which is in good shape. But I think that was the consensus. It was not unanimous.
It was not unanimous, but it was the consensus.
Who was against that?
Me,
Just you?
from the beginning,
I was for tearing it down and give us some more parking over
you
there.
were against it from the beginning.
No, I was not against,
You were, wait,
I said we could tear that backside down.
Gentlemen,
I got a question.
ask the question.
I will.
Let's quit
A year and
discussing
a half
point
ago,
of sale.
you voted for this?
No, I did not
So
vote
you
for
were
it.
against it.
The whole
when you're not-
building,
when it
the
began.
whole building I was
beginning.
against, okay. This
That's
is
what
a
I
different
asked.
horse you're riding
No,
now.
that's what I asked.
All right.
Yes, I was against buying the building.
Travis, he's
I,
against it.
and I agree with you. It should not have been purchased, but we still are there. Now I want to tear it all down and start from the beginning because it's a lot cheaper to do that than to keep pumping money into something. Keep pumping money and you'll find out.
Everybody's got estimates but
Okay,
me.
wait a minute. now.
It's gonna be.
Wait a minute. Let's keep it in order here, guys. Mr. Hahn,
So, I guess my question is, the architect, I understand we have to have the asbestos, you know, we have to confirm there's no asbestos, and that's also special considerations for mitigation of the materials that will be torn out of it,
If it's there.
if it's there. Could they not do that when they're bidding the process to do the building?
That could be part of their scope of work, yes,
So
sir.
why would we have to go ahead and order a special study if they're gonna do it when they're doing the work?
As I said, we could do it either way. I think there was some thought to go ahead and get it done so we would know.
Well, if we can get the architect, which I think is step one, to look at it, make sure that that plan's gonna work, then we take bids to do the building, and we'll find out if asbestos is in there then, right?
The roofer, that's the asbestos specialist that had it tested.
Yes.
Did he think that it was the type asbestos that could be covered or it would have to be removed?
That's my question.
What he told me in a phone call, I've only talked to him once, sir, and I initiated that phone call. He told me it was hazardous. Now, what that means, we didn't get into that at that point.
Did he know when he did that study? When-
Yes, I'd have to go back and look. I want to say it was in July of last year. I'd have to go back and look, but yes. He made, I can tell you this, he made 2 inspections of the roofs of all those buildings. One was in May, one was in July, and representatives of the town were informed, I'm going to say in late summer or early fall, of the findings of those inspections.
So, did we pay this roofer any money?
No, sir.
So, here's basically what you're telling us. So we can go out there and we can check for asbestos and send it in and get it tested for free, and then we'll know. That's
No.
what the roofer did.
No. There was a contract proposal presented to the city. You'll have to tell me, was it ever presented to the board? It was never executed, I can tell you that. But there was a formal professional services agreement for the roofing, presented, and I believe that the individual was operating under a good faith assumption. Now, that's my opinion.
So he's out some money now.
Yes.
But if you don't disturb that in any way, I thought you could spray it anyhow. I thought you could cover it if you didn't disturb it.
Mr. Hahn,
That's why I think we need the architect to look at the roof, say if we need a new roof, if we can repair the roof, if we need to tear the whole thing down.
It needs a new roof.
Yeah.
Well, I think if the asbestos study can be done while we're getting the process of the new roof,
We done had to study. What we need to figure out is what we gotta do. We gotta cover it up or take it out. We already been told that it's been tested and it's there.
well, it sounds like we gotta take it out.
Why
Or
would you have to
cover it
take
up, I
if
don't
you can
know.
spray it?
I don't know. We're past getting a test done. That's what I'm here to tell y'all. We done been told that it's there. It's there. Until somebody tells us it ain't.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not trying to get deeper into this, but I think if you recall my notes from my conversation with the independent consultant on the roofer, there are a lot of questions about the underlying strength of the roof, whether it's asbestos or not. And so I'm not sure, and I'm a layman, but I'm not sure simply covering that roof is an option. I think from what I've been told, particularly on the east end of the building and on the activity center, that just simply covering the existing roof will not be a long-term solution.
We discussed that in the workshop.
Yes, sir.
So why put a new roof on it if you got bad stuff under it? You
That's what I'm
replace it
saying.
all or none.
Yeah, we've got to rebuild the roof if we're going to save the building. We did discuss that in the work session.
I mean, it wouldn't make sense to put a new roof on it and it fall in 3 years if the wood's rotted under it. I mean, that's my opinion.
But that means we would disturb if there's asbestos, that means we would disturb it in some way.
It's done been disturbed. If he tested it, he couldn't take a picture of it and send it in, them tell him.
No, he had to get a sample, you're right.
It's done been disturbed.
All right, let's see if we can bring some consensus to this. The resolution is to pay for an asbestos study. I need a vote, a motion and a vote, guys.
We've already been told that there was a test done and it's there. Why would we spend $2,000 to get told that again? How many times we have to be told?
Okay, Mr. J.
What if the staff requests this be withdrawn and will just include in the architect's scope of services?
I agree with that.
I do
I wanna make sure the majority of this board right here is committed to fixing that building up downtown and having a nice place. And if you are, there's grant money out there available right now, a couple $100,000 that we could use. But if you're not committed to doing it and doing it right, there ain't no sense in discussing this anymore, you know? Put it up for sale. But now that you've been told that, I don't know how valuable it'd be. But, and to answer Mr. Fisher, we bought that property for less than $20 a square foot. If you know where any of that is in Oakland, I'll buy it. Point it out to me and I'll buy it, okay?
All right,
I got one thing to add.
okay, Mr. Hine.
We do need to start moving on these, and you're right, we do need to make decisions.
Last year.
On whether we're going to move forward or not, because the longer we wait, the worse the building is gonna deteriorate. And it's just gonna get hotter and mold comes with heat, so I like the architect, and I said, why can't we just go ahead and get bids on how much it's gonna cost?
There's no doubt we're gonna have an architect on that plan because it's gonna cost over $50,000. There's no doubt we're gonna have to have one.
So you got the architect.
So that's what we need to do.
That's what I agree on too.
I mean, it's gonna cost $50,000 to get a crane come here and take that bridge out of there.
But I still think that we need to replace the boards under it. If it's that bad, it won't hold a roof.
Mayor,
Let's fix it right.
Mr. Duncan.
since we finna move on from resolution 2107, thank the, administration for the recommendation.
Have a motion to table, you're making a motion here, Mr. Duncan, to table this?
No, I thanked him for
Thank you.
removing it
Okay.
and going with.
Yeah, I don't think it is tabled. I think I can make a motion to deny resolution 2107.
Okay, got a motion to deny 2107.
Second.
Got a second from Mr. Duncan. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, we've withdrawn, 2108. Moving over to new business. Do I hear a motion to hear ordinance 2101?
Make a motion to hear it.
Have a second.
Second.
All in favor? All right. Jay?
This was presented at your last meeting. The ordinance is complete now, and therefore it's presented for first reading in its entirety.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2101.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on. Have a motion to hear resolution 2113.
So move.
Have a second.
Second.
Have a second. Mr. J.
This is a resolution for King Engineering to be the city's inspector for Somerset subdivision phase 6. These costs are recovered through the fee structure.
Is this one that we was discussing in the planning board, I believe, about the sewer? Is this the same one? That they had to do something, Somerset on the sewer line or something?
I believe so, sir, I believe so. Could Chris, or Harvey?
Maybe Chris, I don't know if I can add anything. There's Chris, you want to ask?
What's the question, Mr. Johnson?
On this resolution
Oh,
20-13 on Somerset, was this the one that had to do something to the sewer line? It wasn't big enough to take it out? Is this the same subdivision?
it was an adjacent subdivision, Oakland Ridge subdivision next door.
This is not this one?
Any other questions?
Yeah, what's this about?
In the past, King Engineering has performed the inspections for the public improvements and subdivisions through a master agreement with the city. Based upon the discussion by the board back in November or December, where you wanted to see all contracts being executed by the mayor, all contracts will now be brought before this board in a meeting for your review and approval. So that's what this is. It's what the city's been doing for some time, but now we're formalizing the process where the board authorizes the execution of the agreement.
Has King Engineering always did all the subdivisions?
Pretty much. There was a time when we did them in-house for a few years. I would recommend against that. It's gonna require some staff, and I would prefer a third party. These fees are paid by the developer, right, Mr. Johnson?
It's what?
These fees are paid by the developer, just for information. Mr. Fisher?
Remember we had a discussion about looking into getting another engineer to join the squad? Have you looked at that yet?
Yes, that is that's coming up, item 2116.
And we're still kicking with King until 16 gets approved.
No, I don't wanna quite go there yet. King Engineering has been the town engineer of record for many projects.
Right.
What we're talking about here, and I'm jumping ahead, Mayor, I'm sorry if that's inappropriate. We're going to solicit engineers to work on the wastewater treatment system.
Yeah.
If you wish to expand it to others, we can do that. But the first part of your point is absolutely correct. The board directed that we expand to other firms some of our work. And the wastewater treatment plant project is the first example of that.
So you, Mr. Ellis, you said that the developers pay for this?
Yes, sir. These fees are paid by the developer for the subdivision contract.
On the budget tracker, is King, what we pay King Engineering on an annual basis, is it in this budget tracker right here?
It'll be under consulting costs.
Is that just King, or is that all consulting?
It just says King, but it's about 20,000.
But now, excuse
A
me.
year?
Wait a minute.
Engineering consulting fees.
But now in the budget tracker, please.
I see engineering services and expansion, that's where Mr. Fisher's talking about. It's like 24,526,
Yeah,
but that ain't gonna be it. Where's the rest of
there's
it?
more.
Now, you're gonna have a general fund, you're gonna have water, sewer, you're gonna have it all.
Well, here's what I'm getting at then, okay? You're gonna have it everywhere. So what's that total amount we pay King Engineering every year, and what was it cost us to hire a civil engineer to work for us?
Consolidate it and see what we got.
I can get those for you.
I hesitate to throw out a number, but it would be high to have a civil engineer. A licensed PE on staff would be a substantial cost to the town. Now,
What are we
the
paying
fees-
now?
The fees would probably cover it in a good year,
So we'd have our own employee for the same price that, that's covered by fees with no extra revenues being needed. I just wanna know the number. I wanna know the number.
Okay.
And maybe he wants to apply. I don't know.
But now,
Doubt
as Harvey said, and I agree with him, there are advantages to a third party doing inspections, but not the town. There are advantages to that.
I got a question on this when you get through.
Go ahead, Mr. Cook.
If the contractors is paying Mr. King to do the inspection. Who's gonna hold him responsible to make sure that everything is done?
That ain't the way it's happening, Mr. Frank. The town is charging them a fee, and they're paying the town, and then the town is paying Mr. King.
His inspector works on behalf of the town.
Okay.
And
I was
if-
just curious
if-
about that.
If something doesn't work, if something goes wrong, then his professional liability would have exposure.
Okay, that was my question.
That would also,
That's why it's to the town's advantage to have a third-party independent engineer.
That was just my question. Since he was working, they're paying him, what the standards would he go
It's not a
to?
direct payment. It comes out of the fees they pay the city.
Yeah, I understand that now, but I didn't till then.
All right. Where we at, gentlemen?
Resolution 2113.
Motion to approve 2113, Mr. Duncan?
No, I was replying to,
Okay.
where we at.
Okay. I need a motion, gentlemen.
If there's no motion.
Yes or no?
If there's no
Well,
motion,
just a minute, sir, just a minute.
go ahead.
That's the lack of a motion. Moving on. All right, resolution 2114. Have a motion to hear resolution 2114.
What's this one?
same,
Different subdivision?
yes.
Yes, sir. No motion, dies for lack of a motion. Moving on. Resolution 2115, Village Park Phase 2 subdivision. Here, motion to hear.
Motion here.
Second.
Motion is second. Mr. J. Jay?
This is, again, is it not for inspection services? This is not the development agreement.
2115.
I'm sorry, this is the development agreement. I'm sorry, this is the development agreement.
Same?
No, it's the development agreement between the town of Oakland and the developers of Village Park Phase 2. This is the contract agreement between us.
Well, this is the development agreement, but there will need to be a professional inspection in place in order to approve the development agreement.
Would it, Mayor, may I propose to the board that this ought to be deferred as well? And that the attorney and I come back to you, and this may need a special meeting, because time will be of the essence
Okay.
on how to address this situation.
Do these have to be specific when you say that you're giving them right for a professional service contract to an engineer? Does that mean you have to use King Engineering? Does it have to be specific?
Well, the town just, the developer doesn't care, but the town has got to have an engineer in place to conduct the inspection for each development agreement.
Well, I guess my question is, when's the last time that we entered into a contract with King Engineering?
Not in the time.
And
that
when
I've
we
been-
did, how long was that contract good for? I mean, I keep telling them we're under contract with King Engineering, but I can tell you this, I ain't never seen it.
I ain't either.
Okay, I would look for a motion to table these three, table 2115 also, and we're gonna have to do some checking on our engineering. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion, table 2016.
Harvey, do you have any idea?
No, sir.
Was it an indefinite contract, one for life, or?
I could not tell you.
I have a motion, I need a second. All in favor? All right. Moving on, resolution 2117. You have a motion to hear resolution 2117.
Mayor, I think you said 16.
Excuse me, I apologize, the board's got me confused here. Resolution 2116, do I hear a motion to hear that, please?
Motion to hear.
Have a second. All in favor? All right, I believe that's Mr. Ellis.
Yes, sir, please.
Mr. Ellis,
Yes, sir. I'm requesting authorization to put these services out for bids. These are services we use frequently in the town to third-party vendors. Pump trucks, camera trucks are used in the public works. You see they're included there to inspect drains and clean out pump stations and overflows and blockages and things like that. It's just going to streamline the process if we have a contract with a company. Make it much easier for us. We want to get 3 bids, and it just falls in line with our purchasing policy. So I'm requesting that permission to put these services out for bids.
I make a motion to approve.
Can I ask a question?
got a question for Mr. Fisher?
This is the first time you're doing this?
I believe I put the same thing out last year and got 0 bids.
So you're hopeful we're gonna get something this
Yes.
time?
Yes.
And what happened last time when you put out for, and nobody bid? What happened? So it never got done, no inspection, or?
No, we continue
Camera
to,
crew?
we continue to call on these services, but we have to get 3 bids, or we have to do something under emergency situation, and it makes it more cumbersome and more time consuming.
I second Ken's motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on. Do I have a motion to hear resolution 2117?
Motion here.
And all these do need to be, like 20, that needs to be 2116 and 2117, typographical error corrected.
On the top of the resolution, it's 20.
18, it's, well,
They should all be 21.
19 and 21's right.
With that said,
Wait a minute.
They're talking about the date here, they should be 21.
I have a resolution, 2117, is what we're hearing right now.
2117?
We don't have it.
It's listed as 2017.
Oh, yeah, but it's
But it's not in
2117.
mine, it's listed as 2117.
Okay.
You more important than we are.
Apparently not tonight.
Mine 21, I got it now, go ahead.
All right, 2117, I have a motion to hear that.
Motion here, 2117.
Have a second.
Second.
All right. Let's try this one.
Yes, sir, it's me again. This is this is one of the first components in our wastewater treatment plant as the wastewater enters. This screen does what it says it's supposed to do. It screens out like unwanted materials. The current unit we have there is on its last leg, and it's actually died, and we're in the process of resuscitating it as we speak, so it needs to be replaced. It's an original piece of equipment from 2007. And I do not have any idea how much this will cost, but
Make a motion to approve resolution 2117.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do I hear a motion to hear resolution 2118?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All right, Mr. Ellis.
all right, hope this is the last one from me. What I want to do with this is put out for bids paving projects that are too big for town staff to do, but are too small to be included in our annual or semi-annual projects. There's a gap there of things that we just cannot do, and they may run $4,000, $5,000 a project. If we have a contract with a company, then again, going back to the procurement and streamlining and expediting these repairs. That's the purpose of this.
Can we not piggyback off the county or the state's pricing on this?
I'm not sure we could on this contract. Certainly for our annual paving contract, that's a viable option, but as Harvey said, this is for the real small jobs. That might be an option, I don't know.
Does this include the curves too?
No, sir, I'm gonna bring in, well, next month, one for concrete and curbs
Okay.
and sidewalks and driveways. Again, the same process.
Yeah, I knew we talked about that.
With the vendor, you're gonna see this, next month or two, trying to streamline this process again.
Okay.
It's just cumbersome getting 3 bids on a piece of curb, and this guy's already bid twice, and he didn't get the job, so it's a nightmare.
So the answer to my question is you don't know.
I don't know.
But sure would be helpful if we did know.
Would you know, Harvey? Mr. Ellis? Could you find out?
You're not gonna be doing any paving anytime soon, cause the weather, time of year's wrong then.
That's correct.
So we can take.
Could you bring that
But
back
you're gonna
next?
be doing potholes though.
This week, if we can get asphalt, yes, sir.
But you're not talking about this. Would this hurt you to table it to next month?
Not at all.
I'd make a motion to table it to next
Second.
month and give him a chance.
Have a motion table, have a second. All in favor? All right, moving on. Resolution 2119. Engineering consultant for wastewater treatment plant project. Have a motion to hear.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor? Say aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. Got one opposed, miss. All right. Jay?
This would authorize the staff to invite qualification statements from qualified engineers that would work with the town to plan the expansion of the wastewater treatment plant.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2119.
Have a motion second to approve. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Have a motion to hear resolution 2120.
So move.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, Mr. J.
Police chief, the deputy chief are here. This is an authorization to dispose of used vehicles.
All right. Chief?
Okay, we're going to dispose of them, we're gonna sell them to Moscow Police Department.
Okay.
We would have them in an auction ordinarily, but they need some vehicles, so
Who is this?
Moscow Police Department.
How many we talking about?
4,
Purchase price.
$1,500
A piece?
piece.
I make a motion to approve 2120, resolution 2120.
Have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Have a motion to resolution 2120.
Motion to hear.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Gentlemen, this resolution was prepared as an outgrowth of discussion by our employees to me, and I think to several of you. Under the COVID-19 procedures coming down from the state and the funding the city received, prior to December 31st, we used the state allocation money to offset the employees that weren't working, is what I understand. But those rules expired as of December 30th, 31st, 2020. Since January 1st, we have required employees who have missed work related to COVID to use either vacation or sick leave. Where this has become an issue, and a serious issue of debate. Let's say we had an employee in a department that tests positive. That employee was sent home in quarantine. But because of how we operate, there are many times 3 or 4 employees who met the definition of being exposed to that individual, and they had to quarantine for a period, even if they tested negative. We've had several instances where we have required employees to leave work for at least 4 days, because the time factor with the calendar with weekends, but where they would miss 4 days of work and they were charged 32 hours of sick leave or 32 hours of vacation leave. And yet they tested negative and were allowed to return to work. It's been a very difficult issue during this period. And frankly, depending on what happens with exposures, it could continue. What this resolution would do would be grant every employee of the city a bonus of, as drafted, 40 hours sick leave. That would go on the books in their name, and it would be retroactive to January 1st, so we could restore the sick leave that some of these employees have had to use. The long-term payroll cost us approximately $41,000 before overtime and things like that. So the cost to the city would be $41,000 if every employee used 40 hours whenever. But this resolution was drafted to address a specific issue related to COVID. I know it's highly unusual. There is a cost to the city, but that's where we are right now.
So what did we pay them on before this year? Did we get grant money to do that?
You had that allocation of COVID money through the state.
Do governments, do they qualify for PPP?
No, it was what I understand you did, you used the allocation.
Use the allocation.
So they're budgeted in the budget to be paid that anyway, right? Their payroll comes out of a budget.
Well, basically what we had, y'all, and here's what we had. When it first started, employees could be off and they didn't have to take sick leave. But then after December, we had employees get it, and then they had to take all their leave and extended it because they tested positive. And then some people had to take their sick leave because we made them go home.
That's right.
And then they tested negative. But they had to take their leave in order to receive their pay because we sent them to the house. Now, here's what I think is going to be a problem if we continue to do this. I think that you'll see sick people coming to work. I don't think you want that.
Or you'll see people going home because they say they're sick.
I think both of you are correct, but we had a situation in one department where we had an employee who did test positive, and I believe that employee used 53 hours of sick leave during that period. But the problem was we had either 3 or 4 employees that we required to leave work because of the exposure, and they tested negative.
Well, I think if you're gonna require them to leave, you're telling, because the exposure, obviously, if you're requiring them to leave, we kinda have an obligation there to,
Pay their
if
salary.
they wanna come and work, why should they have to use their time? We're requiring them to leave due to the exposure they got at work.
That's the reason we drafted this resolution. But I understand, as Mr. Fisher said, there is the potential for abuse.
What if Chief Walls, they live together in close quarters back there. And so that fireman, let's say he's got a family to feed, but let's say he hadn't been there long, right? And he knows that if he's potentially got COVID, that he's gonna be sent home, okay? So he says, well, I'm not chancing that. I'm just gonna go in, kinda stay away from everybody. And then the fire bell rings. Now I have to get in the same truck. And here you are, you got this guy, he ain't feeling well, but he didn't have any leave. So he had to pay his bills. He wanted all his check. And now he's done contaminated the whole department, the whole shift anyway. Every shift member is there. And now you're operating on half a shift. I I don't know, I don't think this is the answer though. I think it's a temporary fix, but I don't think it's an answer. I think a policy into the effect that if somebody has a positive test, you know, then they do not have to take their leave. But I just wonder, did they not put anything out for payroll protection program for government employees? They did for every other business so they just,
Not that I'm aware of, I can't answer
I'm
that.
not aware that PPP applies to any government, but I'm not an expert on it.
What we do here is the kindness of our heart.
I want to emphasize too, if I may, this is not a huge number of employees, a large number of employees. But it's extremely important to those employees who have been impacted. That's the dilemma as your town manager that I was wrestling with. And to be clear, as Mr. Sutton said in his example, this has impacted operations of this city because we are relatively small anyway, and you wind up with 3 or 4 employees out. It's been a concern.
What happens if?
It's the same way with the police department. 2 or 3 of them get it, they out there together, and then you're short.
What happens if they're exposed multiple times? You gonna let them out every time they're exposed? Tell them to go home every time? Pay them? Then you're in a slippery slope.
But if a coworker tests positive that they've been riding in the pickup truck with, what alternative do we have?
What's the rule on that, Chief?
Well, there's really no rule. That's what it is. It basically covers civilian, and I read the thing, and it has no protection for government. You know, fire and police were exposed 3 or 4 times a day. So, you know, it gets down, you know, we've taken precautions on the way they drive them trucks. We've taken precautions on a lot of things, but there's no way you're gonna protect everybody. It's like Vice Mayor said, this is a pretty slippery slope. And I agree, you may have some employees see this as an opportunity.
If they misuse it, there could be disciplinary action.
If it can be proven, documented, yes, sir.
My thing though is,
Mr. Hahn?
if we're mandating they go home, I think we should have to pay them or give them this COVID time. We're telling them, no, you can't work here because you've been exposed. If they have a positive or negative test at that point, we're telling them they can't work, so I think we have an obligation.
We have been following the CDC guidelines on exposure, and that's what our practice has been.
well, let me ask you this question then. How many employees do you have that's had both vaccines?
Other than police and fire, I'm not aware of any. Now,
Have they been offered, or could they be?
At this point, no, sir, because we've asked.
It's in phases.
It's in phases, and our
got
employees
mine.
do not qualify.
So would you give the same benefit to the employees that's had both vaccines?
If they
Because
catch
they
it,
can't get it, right?
if they catch it, you,
Theoretically.
They can't get it, right?
no.
You know, one
Yes, sir.
one thing I do think that you have a right to, if they say I've been exposed, well, you have a right to know the chain of events that exposed them.
Right.
You know, because anybody can say, well, I was exposed. But, well, what do you mean you're exposed? Well, my great-grandmama on the other side that's been dead 3 years had it, and I sent her a Christmas card, so I'm exposed. Because exposure is a lot dependent on somebody's interpretation of the word.
Yeah.
So I think tracking, which that's what it should be done anyway, tracking may be a very important point in this also.
I agree.
This,
If I may go back to Mr. Sutton's comments may recall, I talked to a representative of the Tennessee Department of Health about a month ago, specifically about water and wastewater treatment plant employees being declared essential employees under the law, under the regulations. And I was told, no, it is police, fire, EMS only. So one of the issues that we've had is how do we staff our water and wastewater plants if our employees are out with COVID or out because of their quarantine? And that's where I've been coming from on this. It's a public health issue in reverse. We have got to staff our water and wastewater plants.
Yeah, you get 10 of them down at one time, they just about shut down.
If we get 10 of them down, we probably are shut down.
So basically what this is doing is giving every employee we have 40 hours of extra sick leave.
Yes, but now,
No.
I wrote it that way, let me say this, because if we only give it to those employees that have been exposed or had to use it, then we're not being fair to the balance of our employees. So.
I agree.
That's why it's written that way. And again, we don't know what's gonna happen over the next 3 or 4 months.
But what about the people who never get exposed? Or do they get to keep that when it's all over? Do they
No,
get to keep
they
that time,
get
or
to
what?
keep it as long as they're employed, but the town does not pay out sick leave when you leave.
That's correct.
So it's not a financial gain. But, you know, if they don't use it now, but 3 years from now, they have a serious medical issue, they would have 40 hours of sick leave in the bank. Yes, sir.
So that's just a one-time deal and not year to year to
No,
year?
sir. As written, it's one time.
Okay.
I'm not sure this is gonna fix the problem. And I know it's a good gesture, I do, and I know that there's people that's exhausted every hour of their leave, okay? I do know that. But I'm not sure this is gonna cover it. If, like, Mr. Quinn, he's not a department head. If he gets sick, he may be sick for 3 weeks.
Yes.
And then you may have somebody like me when I got it that wasn't sick a day. You know, I worry about our policy not protecting sick people, and I also worry about those few people that's always going to take advantage of the system. I mean, they're out there. We all know them, but I think it's a good gesture. I do. I think it gives somebody. But I think the same people that's out of leave now will be out of leave by the end of the year because they use this in some form or fashion. And that's my belief, and I could be wrong. I do hate it. I hate that we send somebody home. That's where I'm thinking we need to revitalize our policy, COVID policy, is if we send somebody home and they come back negative, we shouldn't charge them for that time.
I agree.
I'm just telling you. If we send them home and they're negative and it takes the weekend but tests are fast now. They got rapid tests. But if we send somebody home and they're not sick and we took their leave, that ain't right.
No, it ain't.
That ain't right.
Wait a minute. Mr. Minor, you want to make a comment here?
I mean, the way most law firms are handling it is that if someone goes home on quarantine, they're just getting paid. It's not charged against sick leave. They're just getting paid. They're at home, but they're getting paid.
That was my point a while ago.
That was my point from the get-go, was to have them where they were able to do their duties at home and us have laptops and stuff to where they could go home and stay quarantined and still do some kind of duty at home.
And again, we did that until December 31st. But the other point, a lot of our employees cannot work from home.
Yep.
The nature of their work, they
And
cannot
pay
work.
fire from your house.
Wastewater can't be worked at home?
Not effectively.
It's a joke, it's a joke.
That's about 12 days a year.
All right, Mr. Hines,
I mean, I don't, I still stick to the, you know, if we're telling them to go home, we're gonna have to pay them. This shouldn't count against them if we're telling them to go home. Now, if we have people that are abusing it, the department heads will know that or should know that, and they can handle that accordingly. You know, I mean, that's their job.
Yes, sir.
We could rewrite this resolution for your next meeting that we would simply restore the sick leave or vacation leave for anyone who has used it for COVID since January 1st.
with regular pay.
Well,
Add to,
we would.
Can we
would-
amend this current resolution, Mr. Minor?
Yes.
I think that's what needs to be done. And then we give people time back that we took from them. I mean, if we made them go home and they wasn't sick and they had a negative test, then now, Mr. Minor, I may need some help with this. But I make a motion to amend Resolution 2121 to delete the section that automatically gives every employee 40 hours of sick leave. But the amendment is for any employee that has been sent home by the town to quarantine and then receives a negative test, they will get their leave balance returned back to them for that period of time.
The motion would revise section 2.
now, question,
Yes, sir.
Part of it's one.
is this gonna be 40 hours, or is it gonna be the entire time they were off?
Well, you may have an employee that did this, and I don't know if where they went to get a test or get a test, like a rapid test or something. Me and my wife went, and I promise y'all that we had our results back within 15 minutes. 15 minutes. So,
make it 2 days.
Mr. J, one
Well,
last thing.
we're using.
but some of these tests back then could have took,
Mr. J,
Yes, sir.
you want,
I
I
was gonna,
recognize
the
you.
point, I was gonna make the point that we've been using for employees, and I'll share with you the city's paid for the test. We have sent the employees to the local medical clinic across the street.
Right.
Yes. That's what we've been doing for the ones that we have required. The other question that was asked, with possibly one or two exceptions, I believe the majority of the employees who have been sent home by the town because of exposure are probably going to be 32 hours or less. Now, there may be one or two that are different, but, now, I do know we did have one employee that did test positive and was ill, and that employee, I believe, was 53 hours. So, I mean, we've had some serious cases. And we had another employee who was hospitalized briefly, but I don't know how many hours that was.
do we require a negative test to return to work?
Yes, sir.
So I don't think it matters how many hours they're off if we're requiring. If we require a test after so many days, then if they still test positive, I think that we still have to pay them.
Mr. Hahn, you had a comment?
Well, I mean, I was just gonna say with the, if they have it, if they don't, you know, if we're requiring them to leave again, we should pay them. The amendment that he's talking about, I think is better than putting a number on it.
Yeah, I think it ain't gonna cover some people. I don't think the 40 hours is gonna make it right.
All right, Mr. J, let's.
One final quick comment. We have had a couple of individuals use vacation leave because they didn't have sufficient sick leave, so we'd like to restore that as well.
I agree with that.
And-
That's only a couple of instances.
Yeah, all leave should be done, but I think should be some kind of relief package too. I mean, I don't understand why they'd help everybody out but us. But that's another story.
Okay, you got a motion, you want to restate your motion, Mr. Sutton?
No, I think my motion is stand in the minutes.
Okay, had a second?
Second.
What's the motion?
You want to reread the motion? I knew that was.
Read it, please.
You want to reread the motion for Mr. Sutton, please, ma'am?
I will reread it the best I
I
can.
put it down.
No,
I can attempt it.
I mean, I
My
got
motion
40 hours,
is-
I got 2 days. I need to know what
All
I'm
right.
voting on.
My motion is to delete giving every employee 40 hours of additional leave and to amend section 2 that says employees that have used sick leave for COVID-19 diagnosis or exposure it should include sick leave, annual leave, and comp leave.
Okay? Good now? Everybody good? Okay, you got any more questions, Mr. Fisher, Mr. Gates, anybody? All right. Have a motion, have a second, all in favor? Moving on. All right, have a review of the annual, reports. Mr. J?
Mr. Mayor, Council, I asked, for 3 departments to do this for the purpose of documenting and illustrating to the Board of Aldermen the growth in service calls, service delivery that this city is experiencing over the last 3 or 4 years. And the first one is building permits. Walter's not here tonight because of the change in schedule. He had already, he would have been here, it's been Thursday night as usual, but this shows the growth. We have more than doubled the number of building permits between 2017 and 2020, from 107 to 236. And as you all know, that creates demands on every service we provide.
I have a question, and I don't know if it should be asked in here in the back room, but, I'm gonna request a recess for an executive session before the night's over anyway. And we could go in and it concerns personnel issues and a hiring issue that needs to be discussed. So if y'all wanna do that now, it's fine by me, or we can wait.
Mr. Mayor, I suggest we wait since we have people here for other business items. It's whatever the board wants.
Okay?
O'Loughlin. All right, what do we wanna do with this? You wanna,
These are just to be received.
okay, just being received, okay, moving on.
Well, fire and police.
I'm sorry.
Chief?
Fire chief?
Annual report?
Annual report,
I think I have a graph in here that shows, over the last few years, I wasn't actually ready for this, over the last few years on how the fire service has grown. I do, know one, section there, we saw a dip in 2017, after we gave the county back, the vice mayor had concerns about, a section of the district that we had being so far out that we deleted that. That took about 65 runs off at that time. But as you see, it didn't take long to make that back up. Our runs are potentially going up. We're expanding our services as much as we can, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I actually wasn't really ready to. I apologize.
Chief, could I ask you to address the board the horizontal bar graph that you have regarding Oakland Fire Department responses within the fire district?
Let me see what I got there. I do apologize. I don't know why I slipped my mind back to something. This basically shows the response in the districts. The city of Oakland, which is the main graph, then you have the district. We're making right under 1,000. Total is 1,207. In the district, we made 300 or 235. And then it breaks down like Somerville, those are 4 automatic aid calls. That's where they have a structure fire, we respond to help them. The district, though, is actually what is contracted are through an agreement around the city, the town limits that we take care of. Hickory with 28 calls in Hickory with where they did not respond. And we actually covered those calls.
I was hoping, I was going to ask at a future work session, we have a more in-depth discussion about this, because this is pretty significant in terms of the services we provide to our citizens and to the area.
Can we move this to a work section? Workshop?
I would like to do that, sir, please.
Okay? And we'll call a work session for further discussion.
And I
Chief?
apologize, I kind of went a little bit because I wouldn't.
One minute.
All right, you send the police chief in, please.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Jay?
Police Board has a relatively simple summary of their stats for the full calendar year. I would call your attention to the bottom line of over 2,600 calls for service within the town limits.
How many?
2,625. That's calls for service, that's not officer initiated, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's substantially increased over the last few years, Chief.
Yes, sir, Dad.
How's that compared with Rex over the last 2 or 3 years?
Compared with what?
Rex compared to 2017, say 2020? How much did that go up?
I don't think we had, on accident,
Yes.
I don't think we had accidents on there, did we, man?
No.
Any other questions for the chief? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we will do a workshop on the fire department, and the other two you heard from. Moving on.
Will this not go into the budget workshops that we need? Is this what this is about, showing that we need more people?
It's larger than that. It's larger than that. Is the board aware that you had a fire department study by MTS last June?
Yes, sir.
Was it presented to the board?
No, sir.
I think it'd be appropriate for the board to discuss that study.
What do you mean presented to the board? Because I got a copy of it, and I've gone through it, but I don't know,
Was
From
it
last year?
presented to the board?
I don't believe so. I don't know. I got mine because I was not here. I was up north.
No.
No.
The fire station study from last June.
This is last year.
No,
It was 4 hours.
yeah, okay, good.
All right, so we need to have, that'll be a part of our workshop. Okay. Any other questions for Sutton?
No, sir.
All right, we'll move on then. All right, Parks and Rec Advisory Board report. Ms. Seacrest?
Yeah, I don't really have much to report. We talked about all this in the work session, and I just, you guys gave me the go-ahead, so that's what I did. We joined the affiliated program, United Soccer Club that we talked about. We're gonna have EMT on site at the big soccer field, accessible to the smaller one too, but set up on the big soccer field. Some portable toilets for the big soccer field, new jersey uniforms, new logo. I just nailed out all those details after our work session.
Do you,
Mr.
do you
Fisher?
know when you're gonna get a sample of the jerseys?
I mean, I would assume I could have one in a couple of weeks, but we haven't, registration's going until March the 1st, so I don't have a clear idea of participants until after all that's done.
Any other questions from Ms. Seacrest? Thank you, ma'am. All right, moving on. Eagle Scout candidates. Mr. J.
From your work session, I believe you wanted to provide authority to the town manager to facilitate Eagle Scout projects within the city.
motion to do so?
Yes.
Have a motion from Mr. Fisher, do I have a second? Mr. Hines, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on. All right, resolution, bids, awards, and contracts. Here, do I have a motion to hear resolution 2122?
Make a motion.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Duncan. All right, all in favor? All right, Mr. J,
This would award a contract to Impact Pyro Incorporated of Goodlettsville in the amount of $8,000 for 4th of July fireworks, which would be held on July 3rd.
Can I ask you a question?
yes, sir.
Why is that such an odd number, $8,000? Why not 10 or 5?
I mean, I can answer, it has always been 5 in the past, for
Okay.
Centennial, we bumped it up to 8, and that's just the number we use last.
Everybody happy with that? I
It's a
like,
great,
I
it's a
like,
great show in 2019.
It was
I
a great
say-
show.
sir,
It was a great show.
you don't think
Was it this
2,000
firm?
more would help it out?
What's that?
Was it this firm?
No, this is a different company. The company that we normally use was not available on the 3rd. This was the only one of the 3 bids that was available on the 3rd.
Got a question.
Mr. J, Mr. Fisher, I'm
Fine.
sorry.
Go ahead, please, sir.
Go ahead.
No, I wanna make a motion, but go ahead.
All right, Mr. Gates,
Was it quotes on this or bid it out or something? What was the quotes? I don't see them on here.
They were all for the same amount.
That's what I,
Different types of fireworks, different types of,
but what was the count? What was the numbers on them?
Yeah, did we have a spec sheet for how long a show that it would be or
yeah, you
anything?
guys have that, you should have it in your packet.
I think I added that one.
No, that's all we got, 2 sheets here.
I have it right here.
But there was a spec sheet that everybody bid on, right?
Yeah.
we standardized specs for 3 bids. And only one person wanted to
This
bid.
particular company could only do it on the day we wanted to hold it on the 3rd.
But is it cheaper to do it on the 26th?
It's not, I'm sure it is, but that's the dollar amount all the companies quoted.
So you put out $8,000 and everybody said, this is what we can do.
This is what we can do, this
So
is
Frank
your
does
show.
one thing, I do one thing, and Ken can do one thing, you like Frank's?
That's the budget that,
Okay,
Was this reviewed by the Parks Board?
not yet, I was trying to get the contract sealed, so we didn't lose that date before our board talked about it.
I make a motion that, we add $2,000 to it.
They have a motion, from Mr. Fisher, to add $2,000 to the bid,
Make it even, Ken.
making it even 10. Do I have a second?
If I don't think that's necessary, okay, you can make a motion, but I don't think that's necessary.
And a motion. Do I have a second? All right, dies for lack of a second. Do I have a motion, another motion?
Make a motion to approve resolution 2122.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a second? All in favor? Moving on. Resolution 2123. We have a motion to hear resolution 2123 Verizon wireless contract.
Make a motion to hear it.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. All in favor? All right, Mr. J.
The town currently participates in a statewide agreement for wireless services. I believe it's particularly for the police department. That contract is being phased out, a new one's being phased in, and because it is an agreement, it needs to be approved by the board. You have a copy of the agreement, and quite honestly, it's a lot of Greek, but it's a service that we currently have.
Did they go up?
Why was it being phased out?
It's a statewide agreement, and they're updating it statewide basis.
Chief, you want to comment on this?
Larry?
Just interesting, because all of our technology is on Verizon.
That's why we're doing this.
Okay, that makes sense.
If we don't do this, your service is gonna be interrupted in March, is that correct?
All of our patrol cars use the tablet function to do all of our reporting.
I make a motion to approve resolution 21-23.
Second.
All in favor? Moving on. I knew you could get set it straight, chief.
Thank you.
All right. Consideration of business items. Argo Construction, request for time extension. We have a representative from Argo here.
Representative Fargo was notified of the date change in the meeting date.
Well, I have a comment here, even though I am not a voting member of this board, and I'd like for you to consider this. They're asking for an extension, yet they pulled their crew off of our work and took them to Millington to do some work during the time frame. I think they should appear here before us and explain why we should give them an extension.
Make a motion, table it.
Second.
Have a motion, second table. All in favor? All right, Mr. J, you will notify them accordingly.
We will. Mayor, if I may add one point to that.
Yes, sir.
We got a pay request today. This contract was signed back in October, and it's only 31.5% complete.
The one we're just talking about?
Yes, sir.
And it's 31% complete, and it was in October?
Yes, sir.
How long was it supposed to have lasted?
This month.
Well, that 3 days didn't kill them, did it?
Well, I think they need to, I'm not a voting member, but I feel like we shouldn't pay them anything, they come in here before.
In our contracts, does it specify any repercussions if it's not done within that time?
I have not pulled that contract. I don't, do you know?
I would refer to Attorney Meyer, typically contracts have liquidated damages.
There would typically be, I don't have a contract with that.
Typically, aren't they $100 a day, generally?
I couldn't answer that, I couldn't speak to that, I'm not involved in that.
I don't know about that contract, but generally, there should be.
Well, why would we give them an extension then?
We have a written request for their,
And then this extension, the contract was supposed to be done February the 8th?
yes, sir.
So when did this is January 26th, okay,
It was after your January meeting.
okay.
So they're already late.
Yes.
They pulled the crew off and they want to.
That sounds like our paving crew, don't it?
Is this the line, the 16-inch?
Did they run into any kind of problem that you know of? Excuse me.
What they put in there,
Sir?
not that I'm aware of.
I got a feeling that other job they had more than $100 a day on it.
But they didn't run into any unnecessary problems, why aren't they more than 31% done? Excuse me.
I think the board is in agreement with then, we need an explanation.
Yes, sir.
For what we got. Mr. J, would you relay that to them?
I shall.
We would like to see them at our next meeting. All right. Where are we at? New hires. We have, one new hire, I believe, tonight, police department, chief.
Yes, sir. We're filling a vacancy that we had. This is not a brand new position. This is John Ford. This is the candidate that we have tested and selected. Mr. Ford.
Ford? How are you, sir?
Where's he from?
Where do you live, Mr. Ford?
I currently reside in Shelby County.
Where are you from?
Originally from Memphis. My parents moved down here to Oakland about 14 years ago.
So you've been policing Oakland and Memphis?
No, sir. Was in Grand Junction, Somerville, and Moscow.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
All right. Any other questions for the new officer?
Is that the one you recommended, chief?
Yes, sir.
Make a motion to hire.
Second.
Have a motion second to employ this gentleman. All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome, sir.
Congratulations. Thank y'all. Thank you.
All right, the other two we're tabling for now. Moving on, gentlemen, Need a motion for approval of invoices? I'd like to look them over if you have any questions.
I'd like to request to remove to executive session.
Can we handle the non-agenda item?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're gonna hold on approval of invoices and move on to, approval of credit application, Mr. J.
Well, there are none tonight.
There are none tonight? All right. I will entertain a motion then.
My non-agenda item.
Okay, oh, yes, sir, I'm sorry. Mr. J, your non-agenda item, Twin Oaks.
A question has arisen at the Twin Oaks Plan Development on Highway 64 at Bowers Road. The question came to me, and I felt it was a subsidy issue and should go back to the Planning Commission. But I wanted to make the board aware of it, and I would like to address something. But Matt Price, representing the development, is here this evening to address the board on this question.
It's, Matt Prince.
Prince, I'm sorry.
Grant Homes, construction.
No, you're here.
So, I'm here tonight to request what's known as a 31-foot alternative right-of-way. Chickasaw Electric requires 15 feet front and 15 feet rear utility easement. I have some handouts to show you what this would look like. But right now, with the 50-foot right-of-way, the right-of-way lines are behind the sidewalks. 31-foot alternative right-of-way puts it behind the curb, 9.5 feet difference. Now, nothing physically changes. There is still 13 feet of pavement on each side, 4 feet and 6 inches of grass, 5 foot of sidewalk. The sidewalk now becomes the responsibility of the landowner. And this would give us the room to give Chickasaw what they need, this 15 feet. And for us to be able to have porch encroachments, et cetera.
Okay, I have a question here. Mr. Planner, did Chickasaw change their rules, or they always had 15-foot easements?
The 15 feet has always been in place. I don't think anybody's ever submitted anything without the 15.
So you're asking us to give you a waiver for something that was done by your drawings and your engineers?
It was done by our drawings and our engineers. I did not know that Chickasaw had a 15-foot front and a 15-foot rear requirement. They even said 15-foot side to side, but they seem to be flexible in granting 5-foot side yard easements.
So you're asking this board to give you a variance on a mistake that your people made?
We should have requested a 31-foot alternative right-of-way, which we typically do in almost every one of these developments.
With the 31-foot alternative right-of-way, do you have a drawing or something that that I can look at on that?
Yes.
And I guess my next question would be, is this something that would normally go to the planning board first?
I believe it should, yes, sir.
And then the planning board would send it to us? And where's this at, if you don't mind me asking?
This is at Twin Oaks.
Bowers Road.
Okay.
I'd like to see one if you got it.
Yes,
So-
I've got one for everybody. And I can show you the 50-foot one that was approved.
I don't need to see one chosen.
Mayor, may I ask you a question?
Yes, sir, yes, sir. Let him pass.
So this is basically the road in there, right?
Right.
Yes, this is, you have the road. Okay, and then what we do is we move the right-of-way line from the back of the sidewalk to behind the curb and create a 15-foot utility easement.
And I still don't like myself.
So, I mean, basically, the town is gonna inherit this property. I've always said our roads were too wide. The town's gonna inherit this property at some point in time, and the more asphalt that's there, the more maintenance you're gonna have on it for years to come. I mean, what is normal for a road? What's normal for?
It's a 13-foot section on each side.
How much?
13 feet.
from the edge?
It'll be 13 feet to the gutter.
So you understand what we're saying here? I mean, there's plenty of road there for cars to pass each other, and they've got sidewalks on each side for people to walk. So why would we want more road to maintain later on? It's just gonna be more expensive for the town to keep on it.
May I ask,
Go ahead, Jeff.
does this affect utility easements at all? Water and sewer utility easements?
What do you mean by that? I mean, we've worked out kind of a utility plan, with Mr. Ellis, over the Beaver, the county engineer, about how we would lay in the utilities, like the waste lines go into the street. The water would not, they go between, curb and sidewalk, gas, etc.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I want to emphasize, I asked this to be added to the agenda, not to be against it, but the fact that it is a change, and it's the staff's position that this needs to be approved by the planning commission, come back to the board as a recommendation from them, go through the process.
And I understand that. In my comments where I wanted to establish that this wasn't a change in Chickasaw, what they've been required, in which that, I think that point has been proven. So I'm flexible, board. What, we need to send it back?
Well, if it goes back though, here's the thing. Here we have a developer trying to get houses built, trying to get things done. I mean, this development has been held up by this town for 14 years already.
That's true.
And they're wanting to go to work. If it's gonna go to the planning commission, we got 2 members here now, and then y'all are gonna send it back to this board to get approved. It's government at its finest, that's what I always call it.
You're looking at the end of March.
Is this something that this board can approve now?
Can we give them a favor? Y'all can have one reading and then go to the planning commission?
Okay.
That's a good suggestion.
Let's do that. Let's have a reading in.
Motion for reading.
Have a motion.
Second.
Have a second. All in favor?
What was the motion? What's it doing?
Okay.
Let's back up a minute.
If I understood the motion,
Hold on.
Wait a minute. Let Mr. J talk, please.
if I understood the motion, the ordinance on first reading would grant a variance to allow a 31.5-foot, 31-foot
Alternative right.
alternative right-of-way.
It's not, I wouldn't call it a variance, I'd call it approval of a plan development.
Plan development amendment.
Yeah.
Approval of a planned development amendment for a 31-foot right-of-way.
Ordinances, we can't do
You
that.
Can't alter it.
can't
There goes the
you
legal.
can't have a first reading on an ordinance that's not drafted.
Okay.
We can
I
get,
mean,
we
I
can get,
understand the government at its finest, but I mean, there are certain rules that are.
Mr. Payne,
Okay.
is this on the March 2nd agenda of the planning commission?
Yes.
We need a special call meeting
Next week.
next week.
I agree.
Or the week after the planning meeting.
That's next week. We need, the planning meeting's next Tuesday. Why can't we have it next Thursday or Friday? Next Thursday.
Next Wednesday, if you want, or next Tuesday, fine.
I don't know that there's any speed involved in this, so a special meeting would just present issues with the public hearings and things like that. Do you know of any reason why you couldn't come before the March regular when is the March?
18th?
Okay.
I think it's 18th.
Approval or
We need a special call meeting on the Thursday. And it takes 3 of us members of the mayor can call it, but we can request one for
I will call
Thursday.
the meeting. I just want to get everybody's thing. I don't have a problem calling a meeting if Mr. Minor has no problem with it.
I don't have a calendar.
No, that's fine. You just have to have your ordinance drafted in order to pass it on first reading.
So we can do, we will do the planning meeting is
Next Tuesday,
right?
the 2nd.
The second, and the board, it is the board's wishes to have a special call meeting on Thursday,
The 4th.
the 4th.
The
And
4th.
to include some more stuff that we tabled on the engineering with the contract information as well.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to ask a larger policy question after the vote.
Okay, all right. We'll have them, listen to me, please. We have a motion to have a special call hearing on this, meeting on this for, March the 4th,
Do we have time to post that?
That's what I'm trying to get.
For March 4th.
48 hours?
Yeah, March 4th we would.
48 hours
For
is
an
easy.
ordinance, a second reading?
No, first reading,
You're
first
gonna
reading.
probably need a public hearing on your second reading.
Yeah, second reading. And I thought that's what they were doing at the regular,
No.
The readings are held
We
here.
gonna fix that.
That's a recommendation from the planning commission.
I can talk to the mayor, but it will take 2 special meetings because you'll have to give notice for the public hearing on second
48
reading.
hours,
And
48
well, no, for the public notice on its zoning, it takes 15 days.
Yeah, and this paper's, no offense to Miss Carolyn, it's a weekly, so you gotta sync up your.
If we have first reading on the 4th, we'll get the public notice in the following Tuesday's publication, and the second special meeting would be 15 days, 16 days after that date.
It's Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
It'd be 15, 16 days after that date.
No offense to Miss Carolyn at all, and I love the Fayette Falcon, but sometimes you gotta venture out and there's more than one paper in the world that'll meet the specifications for the meeting.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes. So you gotta
we
be
have-
creative sometimes.
we
The
have-
commercial appeal is published every day.
We've used the Jackson,
It has to be a paper of general circulation.
Is the commercial appeal a paper of general circulation, Mr. Pate?
For Fayette County,
Yes, sir.
I'll have to defer to it.
I'll tell you what, defer then, here's what I challenge you, Mr. Pate, to find out how many copies they deliver in Fayette County and how many the Falcon delivers.
I was just asking for legal opinion.
Sometimes common sense is what people need.
All right, hold up a second here now. You understand what we're trying to do? Because I don't.
I've heard that I've gotta be at a meeting on March the 2nd,
and
That's planning board.
at the planning, and the 4th, and it has to be posted. Okay,
And then we have to have a second reading 15 days later.
I'll have to get you that date.
okay, very good.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
We approved it yet.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Fisher?
When are you, starting all this project?
As soon as possible, the engineering drawings are being done right now. We hope to have those done, hopefully by within the next couple of weeks.
All right.
And we gonna be able to read 2 readings before, or he's gonna have to be delayed a little while, isn't he?
Well, he can, once we do the first reading, he can do an informal getting ready with his
Right.
engineer.
Okay.
I just wanna make sure.
May I ask,
Yeah.
has the development agreement been submitted yet for?
No, we've not submitted, we
We
still
have-
have that to work out.
We have the development agreement.
Okay.
Just wanna make sure.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and we have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
may I ask a broad question, and I'm not trying to create an issue, but this is at least the second time within a year where an issue has developed regarding development in the town of Oakland and Chickasaw Electric. Now, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm not, but it would seem to me that there seems to be a breakdown in communication, coordination, or something by somebody both of those projects, and I'm talking about Burton Place Section C,
Right.
got well into the review process before a question ever arose. I guess I'm asking the rhetorical question, is there something that we need to do in our planning process, or ask developers to do in their planning process that would help ensure that we don't have electric system issues after the preliminary plat is approved?
Where does our engineer come into play on your question?
They don't review electric.
No.
Maybe they need to go to Chickasaw Electric before they come to the board.
Well, but who does that? Does the developer?
The
planning
developer
staff?
should have to.
Well, I think we need to add that to our checklist perhaps.
If it ain't the engineer, it's gotta be the planner.
Well, or the developer. But it needs to be on the checklist.
Well,
Sure
we can't
does.
we can't let a developer go up there and then tell us what they're gonna do.
Get a letter.
That's what that means.
Well, I mean, where's our planner at then? I mean, what's the planner's job?
All right. Are you through, I'm gonna go, Mr. Fisher, if you're finished.
I've been ready to go talk to the attorney for a long time.
All right, Mr. Fisher.
No, that has nothing to do with him.
Okay.
Mine just with Jay.
Okay, all right. All right,
Can I ask who did the motion?
Ken, I think.
Mr.
I don't know.
I thought Ken made it, Todd seconded.
Yes, I think that's exactly what we voted on.
So, who made it?
Mr. Sutton made it, Mr. Hine seconded.
I've got the second, so I couldn't look them up. Thank you.
All right. Are we ready?
Is this the last item?
It is the last item. Do you have a question or something, Mr.
I
Fisher?
do. Concerning trash pickup. As of 7 o'clock tonight, trash still hasn't been picked up in my neighborhood. That's just my neighborhood. But I asked somebody else and they said, yeah, trash is being picked up.
My neighborhood.
In the contract, you know, acts of God is in there. But the new schedule of how they're gonna pick up trash, is with you and them.
I think we're out of order right now. I think we're out of order.
I do too.
Okay?
We're out of order. I call the rule.
Before we adjourn,
Okay, hold up a second.
We never voted.
All right. Mr. Fisher, I accept the out of order, I understand. We're moving on. Mr. Duncan?
I thought the next thing was adjourn. I was
No.
just.
I requested to go into
We got an
executive session.
vote coming in. Okay, before we adjourn.
We also have invoices.
Did we vote on that last motion?
I didn't think we had any invoices, but we can, invoices is last on the agenda.
It is.
So what do we need to do, Attorney Minor?
Suspend, and then
I make a motion, we suspend the meeting, go to executive session and return to finish the other items on the agenda.
Have a second.
Second.
Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. We're going to executive session. We will return after the executive session. What in the hell is going on tonight? It's a kind of a, we're gonna raise hell tonight. That's exactly what it is.
Ken came mad.
Yeah, and he got his buddy over there to pick up his own money.
I know that, but you see how. Hey, no problem.
Let's see. So I think I figured out your issue. I don't think it is all the mics being on as much as this is gain. And when you turn any of it up, it distorts the sound through. And so it pumps out so much that it really starts
But
to
they told me
squeal.
today that probably the
So, you know, the sound went out and then eventually it came back after we messed with it. I was getting messages after, just like, the sound's gone, blah, 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 you know, they're stressing
that's why
out.
they said don't.
Yeah.
If it all stays at 2, it shouldn't be an issue
Yeah.
going forward.
But what it was is I was told earlier today that the speakers are a bit much and also the mics being on. So
Yeah.
I got it. I'm sorry.
No worries. Is this game? That should be turned down. Okay. Yeah, that's down.
I'm sorry. I'm nervous about you
Oh,
touching this because
I've got over $2,000 worth of this equipment. Don't worry. I run
do
a
work.
I run
You just
a
don't
radio
know.
network.
I understand, but it's
The
my
I did
head.
ask the mayor too, so
I know, but it's my head.
I know.
When it
I
comes
got
down
your
to
back.
it.
I got your
So-
back. I won't touch anything that I don't need to. I think I might have figured it out. are at 2, all the same level.
I think it needs to be a light brown or something like that.
Those are nice.
They may not let me. You make sure this is nice, that they're nice first. Well, right, but I don't know that you'll get eyes.
You know,
There it is. So that needs to stay there.
I'm not a big fan of it, but Shelby and I will go down there like 11 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Anybody over 50, most people over 50 are vitamin D deficient. Lack of vitamin D deficiency. Oh yeah, I read all of that stuff and I actually talked to a couple doctors myself. And they said that most
Adrian, can you hear me? Testing.
vitamin D, but they won't admit that, just like they come out and say hydrochloric, where originally they said, no way, no.
Testing.
That's the worst idea in the world, that ain't gonna work.
Testing.
And then now they're saying that it does work. But here's the key, all the vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna and everything, guess who bought stock and all that crap? Bill Gates. Alright, Fauci and half the house bought stock in those three.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is past your bedtime, Russ. I hope you're not confined to a phone, and I hope your wife hadn't sent out a phone resolution.
She said the 2 shots you were 95% effective. And now you're said, you have to boost up. Yeah. What happened to that?
Yeah, you better take it.
I'm like, and they came in vaccines out. In Memphis, they threw 1,500.
Hey, you seen the races up there?
I was impressed.
Well, you know what they
I just got her car.
turned around and said, well, normally we do about 3,500 vaccines a day. So we thought out over a week of 3,500. I'm like, why don't you throw 3,500 out now? Nobody looked at that. This poor man. And they didn't use them because everything got shut down.
I think a light tan or something, because it's going to heck to hang over this to begin with.
When I was out there and testing, I was like, ooh.
That's because somebody's been up there checking.
Please take Fisher's Rock and Jam.
I'll tell you what, I like this,
Take Fisher's Rock and Jam.
I don't know why I pushed it back. Because one of my statements that I was doing, they misinterpreted, they thought I was directing to them.
No, you're good. Don't worry about it. We're good.
Mayor, I'm first.
We gotta hit this back.
Let me sneak in there.
Yes.
Just hit the red button again.
Yes, sir.
I don't need that.
Make sure
Where you
they're
been?
on.
I hope
I
not.
want to check your mic and turn it off or being worked on by an unofficial worker over there. You ready? I'm ready. Very well. Okay, call the meeting back to order. We have one item left, as I understand it, and that's approval of the
Invoices.
invoices. You look them over and then I'll ask for a motion.
Sir,
Something on that third page over the PO amount.
what amount are you looking at?
Third page. On the fourth page. Third page down. Over the PO amount.
How much is it for?
$1,386.94.
All right.
It's on the water, S&N airflow.
Okay, what are you asking about it, sir? I'm sorry.
It just said over the PO amount.
Yeah.
The PO was issued for $700. The note on the invoice says, Lois Lewis made a mistake when getting quote. Harvey's aware of the situation.
My question is on the Wickberg invoice is why would this need to be on here if we had a contract with them?
This is for the board authorized an additional $10,000. At this point, they've incurred cost of $12,656. We are continuing, gentlemen, we are continuing to have issues with our records, and the auditor's spending a lot of time on items that are creating issues in our ability to close out the books. And I can go into it. I think it would be better to wait till the auditors have completed their work. I have, not with the work of our auditors, but there have been some serious inaccuracies, incompleteness in our financial management of this town.
We have to pay them for the thing.
They're incurring the cost, and I want to assure you, they are working on our audit.
If I might intervene here, I would tell you that I know that what they're doing is very much what this board wants done, and it's just taking more time, and they're discovering things we didn't realize were even there. So you just, they need to be given time. We need to get this done right.
I had an email exchange with the auditors this morning. Ms. Siobhan talked to them as well. We can't set a date yet, but we're looking at a date probably in late March for a meeting for this board and the auditors to go over their findings.
They dug a lot deeper than the former auditor.
Without question, without question.
The thing I don't, are you sure that the board approved an additional 10,000? Are you sure of that number?
Approved 5,000.
That's right.
First thing, and then you approved another 5.
Yeah.
And so now all we need is an additional 2656.
Is that it though, or does it just keep on going and going and
She
going?
told me today, when I talked to her in the phone conversation, she said, I have 2 issues that I have really got to put some time
Well, here's what I'm saying. They give a quote to do our audit.
Okay,
And then they give another quote to what they thought it would take up to. We're over it. Then another up to. Well, what good did it do us to take quotes?
at this point, she told me that I asked her that, I said, look, is this above and beyond our scope of what we were getting for the audit? And she said, at this point, this is above and beyond. She said, anything else will be absorbed in the audit. Now, that is exactly what Mitzi told me today.
If I may, one of the issues that they're having to dig deeper into is an issue that I have never encountered in my career of over 40 years in municipal audit. Mitzi told me the same thing, that she has never encountered this question before to the extent that she has found it in Oakland.
Is it the board's fault?
No, sir.
No, it is not.
It is not. It is information that should have been presented to this board. It is information that should have been presented to this board years ago.
That's vague.
Oh, with good reason.
I think some of this probably will require an executive session of the board.
I guess I'd hold my question till then.
It would help if you did.
I'm waiting till
Just-
March.
Just understand, gentlemen, that these are things that are gonna be entirely different. We may even have to seek Mr. Minor's help a little bit.
Are you prepared to show me the invoices of the charges, of the additional charges of over what we've approved of 2,600? Do you have that prepared to give me?
No, all I have is the invoice that she gave me.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve all the invoices with the exception of Wickberg's, and I agree to write them a check for $10,000.
Have a motion to approve all the invoices except for, Mr. J, would you like to comment?
Do you have a second? I'm sorry.
No, we haven't got a second yet.
No, we don't.
Can I ask
No.
a question before? Just
Can I get a second, then we'll take questions?
Well, then you can't.
No,
Okay,
we
excuse me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So we're gonna approve a 10,000. Are we gonna hold that 12 or that 2,000 something on the side
Until I can see what we're paying for.
Yeah,
I'm not
no, I
gonna,
agree. Oh, God, I agree.
I'm not gonna vote and pay
Yeah.
for something I don't know what we're
That's
paying
why I
for.
wanna know how we're gonna do this.
And that could be maybe a better job of presenting it in front of the board, because I'm not signing a blank check.
I don't think it's a blank check, and we are talking, what reviewing for accuracy amounts to hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially. I implore this board, don't let $2,600 stand in the way of finding out if we have that large a discrepancy or incompleteness or inaccuracy in our records.
Well, I don't think it's a fact of letting that go. I think that they're obligated to do the audit. If I'm not mistaken, we hired them at a price to do the audit. And then we come back, that $5,000 wasn't for their audit. That first $5,000 was for them to come in here and train our employees. Up to $5,000. May not have cost us that much, they said. But it did. And then it cost us another $5,000. And now they're wanting $2,600 something on top of that. Well, show me where it's at, and I don't mind paying them if we own them. But I've got to see something that says, here's what we did, here's the time we spent, and hopefully somebody's clocking them in and out of here every time they come.
No,
Hopefully.
They're working from their offices. They're doing a lot of this remotely.
That's scary.
Gentlemen, what did we talk about less than a month ago? We had, was it $305,000 in unpaid water bills that this city had made no effort to collect. They discovered that. They are working on our behalf. The question that has come up now relates to the municipal court system. It is significant. It deserves and it demands that we find the correct answers. And part of the problem, I'll tell you, is we've got different numbers on different days.
Is it something we can get a refund on?
A refund from what?
From the last auditors.
From what we're talking about?
I've asked that question to Attorney Minor. What can we do for this not being found by an audit company? It was their job to find it. I know it's civil, but do we have a legal recourse?
I can't understand.
They didn't mind dunning us a couple of months
Yeah,
ago.
I mean, it would be a malpractice claim, okay? If what you're talking about is if a prior auditor failed to catch something that has now been found by this current auditor, then the question becomes in any malpractice claim, did that prior auditor fail to meet the standard of auditing practice that is recognized in the state of Tennessee? And if that audit, and of course the town would file suit, the town would have to hire an expert that would have to opine under oath, just like any other malpractice against a doctor or a lawyer or, you know, it's the same.
You know, they're the same audit firm that made this audit firm pay for those records,
Twice.
their notes.
$700, yes, he's right.
And we just approved that one, what, 2 months ago, 3 months ago?
2 or 3 months ago.
Now, my question being, should we put this $10,000, put it in there, have them finish the audit, and then bill us at $2,600, and then if everything's kosher, pay that as well? We are gonna pay the bill, we've got to. We paid a $700 bill on somebody who didn't do anything for us. We are gonna pay this $2,600, but we'd like to see where we're going with all this, because I've been asking every month, but I haven't asked this time. And now you just brought it up to where now it's time to ask again. When is this gonna end?
The other thing to remember about any malpractice action is there is a short statute of limitations, probably a year from date of discovery.
And they did this 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
Well, from date of discovery.
Okay, well,
Mitzi told Devon that they've got 2 outstanding issues they've got to resolve. They get those resolved, we'll get things. I'm anticipating the latter part of March. I don't want to say a date because she didn't give me a date, but I think that's what we're looking at. Now, I don't know what the other issue is. I know what one of them is, the one I've been working on with her, and it is a significant issue. And I have talked to the attorney about it.
I sure got a question I'd like to ask, but I can't ask it here.
I think if you will be patient for just a little while longer, let them finish, you're gonna get the answer you're looking for.
I think,
I withdraw my motion, and I'll entertain somebody else's motion on the invoices.
if I may, one point, Mayor. I think this board will be pleased with the thoroughness of this audit. I think this board is going to be extremely concerned with the findings of this audit.
I will say this, that this audit, when they first started, was $14,000 under the next lowest bid. And this right here still puts it about $1,700, $1,700 and some change. Under what the next lowest bid was.
But Mayor, my point is, they gonna ask you for more money in the midst. Is there responsibility to do? It is.
I think the difference is they are discovering issues that are outside the scope of a normal municipal audit.
they are discovering issues that Jay just said he's never seen, the auditor's never seen, and I've never seen anything in my 40-something years of audits of government and agencies.
We had some talented people.
Now, we just had some people who lived a long time.
Okay, a word to back,
I'm sorry?
to bear with. All it is to trace, whatever.
Yes, sir.
It- And back to my point, when you agree to something and you find something else for your time, you folk to do what you have said.
And these people are really going back. That they are doing what they have titled as a deep dive. They are not just going back to 2018 and then,
I think, to answer Mr. Duncan's question, if I could be recognized, Mr. Mayor. I think they put that in that quote, that this price is based on this many hours, which would be a normal time for it to be complete. And so I think that's included in the audit on what a normal audit should take, how many hours. And so they give that price based on it, and it's went over. Well, I understand that they can charge you more because it's outside the normal scope, it's taking them longer, I understand that. But I'm like Mr. Fisher. We're gonna have to pay the money sooner or later. I mean, they've been here, they've been doing it. But, I withdrew my motion. I will entertain another motion on the invoices.
I make a motion to approve the invoices.
We can't make them mad at this point of the game.
We have a motion to approve, do I have a second?
I wanna make a motion.
We've got a motion.
Got a motion. Do I have a second to the motion?
I say,
Have a motion second, all in favor?
Nay.
Got a nay, an aye,
Nay.
okay, motion dies. Mr. Fisher,
I make a motion, we pay the 10,000, and when the audit is complete, we give them their last money, if everything's kosher. Because it was kosher the last time and we paid it, and now look where we are.
I think we have forgot about all the other invoices that was on that page.
And we pay those other invoices.
so I have a motion.
good points.
I'm gonna see if I can interpret this motion. I have a motion on the table to pay all the invoices and 10,000 of the auditor's invoice, with the rest be paid subject to their presenting their final bill and hours of documentation. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Got us all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn, Mr. Duncan?
Mr. Minor,
I have to.
hold up just a second.
ask,
Before you leave, I want to ask you a personal question.
the police that we hired, do we have to give this back?
Should.
Yes, thank you for reminding us. Please give that personal information back to Chief.
And I make a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This Monday night.